Hello everyone, Joshua with Texas Games, bringing y'all another Awaken Chaos Era video. Today we're going to be talking about Glyphs, something that no one ever seems to talk about. And we're going to talk about it here today because I feel like Glyphs need a major revamp, and you're going to see what I mean here in a moment. Let's go up here to some of our characters. We're going to be focusing mostly on DPSs when it comes to Glyphs today, because I feel like they're the ones who get most hurt by the Glyph situation. And a lot of you may not even know there's a Glyph situation. And one important thing that I do know that needs to be done, they need to add Glyphs to the index so we can actually see what these characters look like going through all the different various levels of the Glyphs. Like, put like a little slider down there in the UI and let us just kind of go through the whole thing, you know, from 1 star to 2 star all the way up to 6, and then Awaken 1 star all the way up to 6, and then also of course have the Glyphs level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. That would be fantastic, because then a lot of people would have a lot more of a better idea of what units actually invest into, because some people don't realize how good how good or bad a unit can get until they max glyph them out. So speaking of which, if we go to a unit like Nathalia, which everyone in the game has right now, obviously because it's in your mailbox, this is what her glyphs look like maxed out. Now, we all know that Nathalia is pure DPS. She just wants to do damage, 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 and more damage. She gets 745 attack. Great. She gets 10% crit rate. Great. She gets 14% crit damage. Great. But then she gets 14.5% resistance. Useless. And we're going to talk about why that's useless here in a little bit, because it's going to get even worse. But for the most part, Nathalia's got a pretty good distribution of stats here. She's got a little bit of defense, some decent speed, and some good health among all of her other DPS stats. So she actually was one of the ones that, you know, was done well. And Zalix will be another one that was done well too, which we'll get to him in a moment. And she's also Devil Guide, so keep that in mind. Agility and precision, why are they there? They don't exist on Glyphs, so I'm a little confused why those have been there all this time. I would love for them to add agility and precision glyphs, because tanks and support units and healers could utilize agility and DPSs could utilize precision. So let's maybe add those in there right now, because kind of at the moment they're a bit false advertisement because they're not really there. So just kind of wanted to throw that little tidbit in there. Back to Zalix. Zalix is killing God. He also gets 742 attack, 10% crit rate, and 14% crit damage, and a little bit of speed, health, and defense as well, and also 14.5% resistance. So his stats are fairly close to Nathalia. They both were actually the lucky ones. They did fairly well on giving these two units somewhat of what they really needed from Glyphs. A lot of other units, though, were not so lucky. Let's take a look at Vance. Now, what's one of the biggest gripes with Vance? He just doesn't do as much damage because he's super situational. He needs a lot of buffs on the enemy that he can clone and of course do additional damage off of. So that makes him good against tank metas in PvP, but he still has an issue outside of that, and that's just doing a lot of damage purely. And he is again a DPS. Now he gets 690 attack, which is modest. He gets decent speed and his crit rate is really good, but then he gets like no crit damage, because they're giving him 24% resistance. Why does he need 24% resistance? And he's also killing God, by the way, which already goes to show you that just because you're the same grouping of glyphs as another character, you are not going to get the same stats. And in case some of you are not aware of that, now you are. So, resistance. Why is it 24% on a unit like Vance? And again, we will still get to why resistance is so bad on DPSs the further we get into the video. Whew. All right, moving on. Now, Connor's going to be one of our, one of our only tank support units we're going to discuss really here in the video, and that's because he has one major flaw in his as well. I don't mind resistance on any kind of tank-like character, even if they scale to different other stats. You know, resistance is good on those types of characters because you will actually put some more you will actually put more resistance in them. Because, of course, you don't want them to get, debuffed, especially if it's like a crowd control debuff, like stun, for example, or freeze, etc. But the one thing that they really messed up with him is his attack is so dang low. And he scales to attack for his HP and his shields. You can see right there, He gets one more attack, which would put him at 428 if I completely finished him off, and he'd be up there pretty high in resistance, which again, resistance on a tank-like character is fine. It's resistance on DPSs that I'm having the issue with. But yeah, 428 attack for him is still, in my opinion, a bit low for a unit that scales pretty much to attack for almost everything he does. So I just kind of want to throw that out there. Might be something, some food for thought for hopefully the developers going forward to maybe come in here and start making these glyphs be a little bit more better suited to the actual character that they're attached to. Another one we can look at here is Zachary. Zachary is another one of those units, kind of like Vance, that has an issue with damage. And this is why he falls off after mid-game. Even with his latest buffs, he's still just not really doing anything for your team. There's a plethora of other units you're going to run over him that are going to be just as easy to build, or maybe slightly a little bit harder, but they're going to be more beneficial to your team. And he gets a little over 680 or 690 attack, maybe something around that, because I believe he does get a 2% from that. So it's not too much more, but he gets okay attack. I can live with that. It's modest. What I don't like, though, is, let's see here. He gets low crit damage and high resistance yet again. And he's a god of war. What? He's the god of war, man. And he's getting 24% resistance yet again. I don't know why that resistance is forced into some of these DPSs. It really holds him back a lot. I know some of you are like, well, I mean, it's only going to be like an extra 10-15% crit damage or whatever. That's still quite a bit. That's a little bit. I mean, have you ever went after an enemy and they just survived with a slither of HP? That simple fix could correct a lot more than a lot of you might be aware of. Not to mention, it just should be that way anyways, because these characters' glyphs should kind of match up a little bit better with what the character is actually doing, because 24% resistance means you're losing 24% that could be distributed into crit rate, crit damage, maybe into some more attack, or even HP or defense and speed, actual beneficial stats to these characters. And the reason why I'm so hell-bent on getting this resistance problem solved in glyphs is simple. In this game, your DPSs are going to get hit with debuffs pretty much anyways, because you're not going to be building your DPSs with resistance. Let's go back to Nathalia, for example. Are you going to sit here and tell me that you're going to go in and build your Nathalia with around 50% resistance when she's only got a 14.5 base? No, you're not. Because if you do that, you know what's going to happen? You're going to be losing 30 to 40% attack, crit rate, and crit damage. Either one of those stats or all three of those stats are going to take a hit, because you're going to be wasting 30 or 40% of your sub rolls or main rolls to go into resistance. That is not ideal for a DPS in this game, not the way this game is designed. There are a few exceptions to the roles, like DPSs that scale to like HP and defense, like a rogue, for example, who, by the way, gets over 700 defense on his glyphs, which is nuts, even higher than Hackran's and Charles. Charles, of course, being another one that scales like that as well. Even Corrupt Aurak, you could kind of throw into that mix. So those are a few exceptions to the roles. Obviously, there's always going to be exceptions to the roles. But for a majority of DPSs, this situation just is not ideal. And it may not seem like a big thing, but it's just something to keep an eye on. It's just, I kind of want to educate you guys and gals out there. I know a lot of players out there, they don't really have a lot of units, on level 5 glyphs yet, so they can't really sit there and see what their stats actually look like yet until it's all said and done. But hopefully this video enlightens us, a few people out there. Hopefully it reaches the developers and they can take a look at this and maybe reevaluate their logic with glyphs for certain types of characters, maybe tweak them a little bit, because if we're gonna keep rebalancing the characters in this game, nerfing and buffing, etc., I think we should be looking into glyphs as well, because that could be a really good way to rebalance characters without really hurting them. Or even buff characters without making them too strong, but just giving them just a little extra. And, that's all we really want, right? So, I mean, I could see it happening, but it might not. I don't know. But no one's ever really brought that to anyone's attention on a platform like this. So I thought maybe I'd sit here and take the time to do so. Also, let's try to get a little bit, more involved with the agility and precision. I know a lot of people aren't too familiar with those two stats, but they're very, very good. I mean, you get your agility up, you're increasing your chances of doing deflections, which cuts your damage in half, and you can't be crit. That is huge for tanks. That is huge for support units and healers. And then if you can give us some precision, oh my goodness, that helps a lot of units out like Nathalia. It makes Zatlix even better. It helps units out that are doing DPS, and they're going to be doing a lot of like different types of content, including against units that have a type advantage against them, and they're going to, get hit with deflections and not crit as much. Those precisions will actually help those units out as well. So, I don't know what their game plan is. I just thought that we could get something like that hopefully done. I don't know, if they are planning to do that, that's great. If they aren't, hopefully this video kind of at least, maybe pushes them in that direction. I don't know. Hopefully. I want to show you one funny thing though. We got to stop doing this. I mean, this cannot be argued. This has to stop. What is this 1% crap? Crit rate 1%, crit damage 2%. I've seen this on quite a few units, even when you fully max glyph them. And you'll see right here, you do not get any more crit rate or crit damage from this character, even if you fully maxed them out. So why are those a thing? Those are literally useless. I don't know. I just have to call that out because that is ridiculous. That has to go. That cannot happen. But anyways, let me know what you guys and gals think in the comment section below. What do you think about the glyphs? Do you think they need to rework them, tweak them a little bit, maybe add in actually agility and precision? Would you like the inclusion of those two stats as well? Do you think it would help out a lot of characters? Do you think this would be a really good way to rebalance some characters without having to really touch their base stats or mess with their skills or traits or anything like that? Let me know all that and more in the comment section below. And rip my Savannah, because she sadly happens to be one of those 24% resistant units as well, and we're of course going to be building her up and showcasing her here on the channel. She'll be our first 6-star legendary on this account, because this account has been very heavily elite and epic focused, but we definitely want to try her out. I have some cool ideas with her that should be a lot of fun. But again, let me know, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, check notifications, and join me in the description below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.